Happy Monday. Doing an update video. Saylor just bought more Bitcoin. He gave this update yesterday, early morning. We need more green dots. The infamous message that precedes a Bitcoin buy. Now, a lot of things have happened actually, but we'll get into that. He released this tweet, which makes complete sense. Think about Bitcoin, think about money, think about how money devalues, think about what gains in value. This is a graphic saying the historic precedence for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So Manhattan was bought for the price of 60 guilders. Don't know what that is. Louisiana was bought for $15 million, California for $18 million, and Alaska for $7.5 million. And what are they worth now? And fundamentally, if you understand that land was the Bitcoin of that era, the 200 years of going west, 300 years, I don't know, if you want to count the 1500s, you got an incredible opportunity to get in early on an asset that everyone has access to and everyone wants unilaterally, and that's a much better form of money than land. And Saylor realizes this. He realizes that you have to think big, and that's pretty much what this video is about, thinking big. When you zoom out, you look at your opportunity, you can see purchases like land that is incredibly valuable, that maybe 100 years from now, we know that we'll keep expanding west, and one day we're going to need that land. And they had the forethought to get in early. Now, what's important here is now Saylor's buying another $5.5 billion of Bitcoin. So at 97-ish thousand, 98,000, he got 55,000 Bitcoin. And as you can see, your boy Andrew Tate is matching him every single time with another $1 million buy, which is very interesting. Cryptos are us, obviously. Gotta make his comment in here. And what you get from this, hey Visions, is you see the money start to convert into more realistic long-term assets. And throughout history, we saw this in the form of like art price inflation, jewels, diamonds, gold. But what you see, and what the problem with gold was, and the problem with all of those items really were that it was hard to sell, and those really wealthy people, although you could take your prized painting across the country, smuggle it out, and start a new life somewhere, if you ever did want to liquidate, it's hard. It's hard to find the right buyers in another country for your type of art. They have to appreciate it, they have to understand it, they have to have an eye for it. The value of it might go down. Some of them you can imagine go down by like 10 at their tenth of their price if they're in another country, because the buyers aren't there. And with Bitcoin, that's different, right? Bitcoin's utility in its basically store of value and its ability to be transferred peer-to-peer without a third party is going to be the main reason, I think, that it's being preferred over gold for a lot of these countries, because you want to be able to liquidate, hold, and manage whenever and however you need to as a country. At least that's how I think you would do it, because as a user, right, you hold your Bitcoin You keep it safe. No one can ever touch it. It's indestructible. You want to spend a little bit of it, you can spend, just a little bit of your Bitcoin, keep the main principal. Countries, they see this as, well, I have, infinite currency. I have a GDP and I have people. Now with Bitcoin, fundamentally, it doesn't accrue some income to the country. Instead, it acts as a baseline kind of reserve backing that in case ever anything they needed to, they could do something. But that basically leads to like how useful will it be in the future, and you leverage that thinking how other countries are going to need it, how other countries are buying it as a reserve asset, all the way to what we know as Bitcoin DeFi, the future of infrastructure being built on Bitcoin, tied to Bitcoin, utilizing Bitcoin as collateral, etc. Because that's how you secure an increasingly online and blockchain space. You need Bitcoin. And then we see others coming in, Saylor Scientific, saying they bought another nearly 300 Bitcoin. And what you see with this game theory is that Saylor is not only indicating when he's buying Bitcoin, but he's almost indicating when all of us could be buying Bitcoin. And it's almost like he's giving us a chance to front run him. So if you realize that Saylor's giving you the golden opportunity to basically accrue the most Bitcoin you can, because this man bought 130,000 Bitcoin for his company in just this month. Didn't he say he'd be buying basically that or a little bit more than that a year for the next 3-4 years? 42 billion, took out. He's gonna be buying Bitcoin with it, all that stuff. Whatever that was, whatever it is, he's doing that in like a month now. He's not done. The month isn't over. Not saying he's gonna buy again in November, but like, goddamn. And then he says this year to date, MicroStrategy's treasury operations delivered a BTC yield of nearly 60%, providing a net benefit of 112,000 Bitcoin to our shareholders, or nearly 341 BTC per day. Now, for those of you who don't know, it's about 450 Bitcoin a day mined in this cycle's Bitcoin reward per block. But obviously in 3 years that'll be half 3 in some years. He goes on, at 100k per Bitcoin, that would equate to 11.2 Bitcoin or billion dollars for the year so far, or $34.1 million per day. Now, I would share with you a clip of Michael Saylor going over, what is the value of money, why he's buying so much Bitcoin, why on CNBC he's talking about he's getting $500 million a day, he's using it to buy Bitcoin, his company. But what people don't focus on, and this is what's most important, is that in January there will be accounting changes. And from my understanding, when these accounting changes take place, all these companies that are buying Bitcoin, Saylor Scientific, MicroStrategy, a ton of them, these companies will then start to price their earnings, but to include their holdings in Bitcoin. Previously, as Bitcoin's price went up, they weren't able to do that. This is what I'm, from my understanding, because I don't have to do this. I'm not a CFO. But when you get to an operation like MicroStrategy, who's buying this much Bitcoin, who has so much Bitcoin on their balance sheet, when their price per Bitcoin is so low, next quarter earnings that they tell their shareholders they've made this much, and as they keep smash buying Bitcoin and its price keeps going up, that he's able to accrue this much earnings for his company, suddenly it all makes sense to people. Oh, it's now again a basically a per earning kind of evaluation. And if you're looking at the price of the stock as not as, hey, it's overvalued because in connection to Bitcoin, in ratio, it's it keeps dwindling, and maybe the premium keeps changing, right? I don't believe in that anymore. I think if you have the opportunity, you should be looking at MicroStrategy as something like, if you're able to buy an asset that accrues Bitcoin yield towards you, I don't necessarily care too much about the price of it so much as I care about what part of the cycle I'm in, and then do I want it at that price, right? I mean, like, I understand the price is important, but if you look at where we are in the cycle and you're telling me, listen, this man just he smash bought over the weekend 55,000 Bitcoin for his company. And again, this month alone, he did another 4.6 billion buy earlier, then a 2 billion buy earlier. This was in November, right? So he's about over 10 billion in 1 month. 12 billion? I don't know. Yeah, over 12 billion in a month. 12.1 billion. Interesting numbers. And if you look at that as the game theory just playing out, it suddenly stops becoming so confusing, right? So you start looking at it like, okay, we can start accounting for Bitcoin properly. We can start pricing our earnings ratio properly. The company's priced properly. We can continue doing our operational business. You then look at, well, in this case, I don't know about operational business. I think that the fundamental business I'm looking at for MicroStrategy is to buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin, and then to become some kind of massive wealth institution that, figured it all out. And then if you want to store your Bitcoin with them, you can, because they figured it out. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I expect. That's what I would expect, at least. And now, what we see here, this game theory, is basically a company that's figured out how to tap into this asset. It's a technology. It's an open source freedom technology play, and they're converting real dollars that are constantly entering the market. And what he's able to do with this is offer these companies with massive amounts of money that they can't just spend on whatever they want. They can only do certain, I guess, safer things with it. What they're able to do, MicroStrategy is able to do, is offer them something akin to a premium on a bond, where they can convert it into stock. I don't even know how all this plays into this, like, what's this game theory of, do they have to pay back these companies, and fundamentally, at what rate are these companies lending MicroStrategy all this money? And MicroStrategy's basically figured out that, like, hey, if we're big enough and our stocks price volatility is big enough, and we're able to put cash reserves into an asset that's fixed in supply and it's constantly going up, we might have a play here where we can just have people constantly loan us out money. We put that into Bitcoin on our balance sheet, and then we pay them back in some form, in some way that makes them happy, that they agree on, and that doesn't take away from the Bitcoin yield per share. And what is crazy about this is, not only has almost everyone figured this out. Like, it's, imagine your company, and whether, I don't know, right? Like, we saw a post about this recently. Like, the government holds like $3.6 billion of cheese in a reserve, in like a stockpile. Companies can hold cheese too, right? Companies can hold their own cheese, and it could be worth something, and it can go up in value. Who knows? And the same is with Bitcoin. And the reality is, companies are doing that now. And not only companies, but countries are doing it too. The US, the plan is, according to Dennis Porter, potentially according to Trump and their administration and RFK and everyone that wants this to happen, and Senator Cynthia Lummis, we might get a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We might get a stockpile that's going to be buying like 1 million Bitcoin in 3 to 5 years. I don't know how long. They're going to be front run. They're being front run. States want in, other countries want in. And other countries are already in. Some countries have been buying MicroStrategy. Like, the idea is now we're on a grind up, as people who hold Bitcoin are tempted to sell their Bitcoin. People who don't own Bitcoin are smash buying it while they see any dips. The bigger ones are constantly looking out to make big purchases whenever they can, get in on the OTC markets however they can. And we're just getting into, 9:45 a.m. just, into the opening Monday morning. And I'm sure, I'll probably check MicroStrategy's price later. I can imagine it's very volatile. We're looking at, people trying to wreck the longs, wreck the shorts. So, just like Bitcoin, it's like a war between those two. Not just the longs and the shorts, but, the buy orders and the sell orders. But the reality is, MicroStrategy's goal is to just keep getting financing like this, keep buying Bitcoin, keep increasing the value of its company, to keep being able to do that in the future. And the reality is, as others are doing it, the stockpile that he has is going up in value, allowing him to keep doing it himself even further. And his buys are huge, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we see this level of buying just keep happening. And what to me that looks like is, as we get further into the year, further into 2025, the money supply is going to go up massively. And so, it's hard to see here, but if you scroll back here, you can see the money supply was going down all while there's tightening, the entire tightening cycle. And just about, 2024, things start to change. And suddenly, we're on the up. And we're looking at a money supply shock, not as in, a dwindling, but an entering into the market. And if you're looking at all these countries lowering their rates, you look at us lowering our rates, the rates and the money entering into the market are effectively the same thing. What happens first is a different question, but what's important to know is that the money supply of all these countries are going up. Money supply circulating is going up. And as countries are looking at what assets are worth putting this new form of money in, and their people are also looking at what's this new form of money looking like, this Bitcoin thing, then you start to understand, wait a minute, we don't really have that much time. I don't think we have that much time. I do think this cycle is different. I know that it's easy to get flooded out. I think it's easy for things to go down for, a week and then people lose hope. I think, price drops do scare some people. But the way I look at it is the fundamentals are, they're obvious. There's a reason why we're at 90 now, and it's because of the fundamentals. And obviously, I mean, things can be slightly manipulated, short term on some exchanges, low liquidity, but countries en masse are looking at Bitcoin differently now. And the money supply going up massively tells you, okay, if the biggest countries and the biggest people, and now even the biggest institutions, are getting into Bitcoin, let's put it this way. From what I know, in December, Microsoft is going to be holding some meeting presentation to its board members where some shareholder, requested them that they have to seriously consider putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Well, lo and behold, the one presenting to Microsoft, from what I heard, is none other than Michael Saylor himself. And so we'll have, I don't know if we'll get to see it, but regardless, these big guys are going to have to sit through a 3-minute presentation on why Bitcoin is the reason that they will make it effectively in the next 20 years. That's what I'm seeing. And all these other companies that have to, go through a similar process. This is like, it's a litmus test. Some will immediately bring it up in their own companies like, hey, we should put this on our balance sheet. Look, they converted Microsoft. All the way to maybe we need Michael Saylor to come to us. Maybe this branches out into, what Patrick Bet-David said, that we might get, Warren Buffett level people with $100 billion in cash kind of people to sit down with Michael Saylor and, just listen. And yeah, so things are changing pretty fast. And, this is just an update, Monday morning update, but it seems like it's one of these, beginning at Q4, seeing the end of the year, we're going to get something massive kind of updates. But no, this is just a Monday morning update. Feels like this is going to be a regular thing for a while, All right. Well, if you like this video, like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell if you want to see more of this. I'll try to make some update videos and talk some more Bitcoin. Peace.